All right, so hi, my name is Heidy Canales, and I'm interview Denise Mora for the Latinx Oral History Archive on December 10th. So hi, Denise.
Hello, hi Heidi.
So basically today we're just going to be talking about you, your time at Penn State, and I just hope to kind of learn more about you, your experiences, and how kind of Penn State has, shaped your life overall. So we're just gonna get started with, some basic facts about you. So can you just tell me a little bit about like you, like where, when you were born, where you grew up, your family structure?
Yeah, sure. So I am born and raised in Philly. Throughout my life, I've moved in different areas of Philly. So an interesting background point, my mom actually came to Philly when she was like 8.5 months pregnant. So she came 2 weeks before I was born. So it's crazy to think that with just a matter of 2 weeks, my life would have been completely different. But yeah, luckily she had family that was already here from her mom's side, from my grandma's side. So we have a lot of family here. We have a lot of my aunts and uncles and cousins from my mom's side here, luckily. So I grew up around a lot of family. My mom and my dad were here, but then my dad left to Ecuador when I was 2 years old. So they were separated. So throughout like me growing up, I just had my mom with me. I would go when I was little, I would go every summer to visit my dad in Ecuador. So I got to learn a lot about the culture over there. So learning like the language, learning a little bit more about Ecuador. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, I think overall in Philly, I was really close with my cousins. I have three girl cousins that I'm really close to, and we grew up together. And then always had family reunions. So I think I was blessed to always have that big family structure that we kind of see portrayed in a lot of movies and stuff. So I can relate to that. Yeah.
That's really cool. Did you have any brothers and sisters, or was it just you?
So that's another thing. So basically, I do have brothers and sisters, but they're from my dad's side. So from my mom's side, it's only me. And obviously, since I grew up with my mom, I didn't really get to spend time with my step siblings. But I have one that lives in Philly. He's the second oldest, and then I have three that live in Ecuador. That I see them every time I go over there. But yeah, we have a relationship. It's just not too close because they live far away. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Would you say that your neighborhood was big, small, or like, because Philly kind of moved around all over, you kind of had all of the experiences that come with Philly?
Yeah, it was definitely very differing with where I moved in Philly. So to give background, so my uncle actually owns a restaurant in Philadelphia called Tierra Colombiana. So and all of my family worked there. So that was literally like any family member that came from Ecuador, they had the opportunity to work there, which was really good. But also because that restaurant sustained a lot of my family financially, it was based in North Philly, and North Philly is like not good. It's basically the hood. So I spent most of my childhood there. So that neighborhood, I mean, I don't know if to say like the size of it, but it was it was more diverse, and there was more so Black and Latinos. But I just remember it being a little bit more close knit because I remember like I used to be able to go outside with friends and like play. And I love that. It was like so much fun. And then my aunt lived right next door. So like I would always go to like sleep over there. That was fun. And then after that, we moved to the suburbs. And that was a very different experience. So we went from like a townhouse to like a single home. And so it was a lot more space. There's like a yard and everything. And that was nice. But we were only there for 2 years, and the neighborhood was a lot nicer, of course. The people were a lot nicer too, which was different. And then after that, I moved to Northeast Philly. And then Northeast Philly is kind of in between. So it's not the suburbs, it's not like North Philly either, but it's in between. And then that was a townhouse too, but it had a little bit more space. It was a little safer than North Philly, but less safer than the suburbs. So it's in between. And yeah, that house, like I lived 5 years there, 6 years, which is the longest period of time I lived in one home because me and my mom moved around a lot. So yeah, it was like different, like every stage of moving.
And what about like work situations? So obviously, like you mentioned, like the family restaurant like kind of sustained your family financials. Was your mom always working there, or did she kind of switch up between jobs as you were like moving around and stuff like that?
Yeah, so my mom worked there, oof, I would have to say until I was like 12. So she worked there for like 12 years of her life almost. So yeah, she started off working at a hotel, like cleaning. And then I guess my uncle offered her a job at the restaurant. So then she became a server and then she was a cashier. And I remember like I used to, because my mom would work there and we didn't have a babysitter or anything, I would literally be in the restaurant like all day. In the office or like, yeah. Um, yeah, and then I think my mom couldn't take working with family because working with family is hard. I mean, I've worked with family before, so she actually left when I was in middle school, and then she had the opportunity to become a preschool teacher, was which was the first time where she had to learn English in a professional manner. So, and when she worked at Tierras, she could talk Spanish because all the clients were Spanish, like knew how to talk Spanish. So she didn't really have the need to learn English. But then as a preschool teacher, well, she didn't become a preschool teacher. She became a like assistant teacher. So then she was exposed to like a whole variety of different people in a professional sense, because before she was just used to Latinos and now she's exposed to like, white, and it was a Jewish school. So, it was all different people there. So she was there for since I was 12 until I'm 27 right now, until I was like 25. So she loved it. And unfortunately, she didn't make a lot of money. I think everyone knows that when you are educating our youth, you don't make a lot of money, but she loved it. So she never left
That's
until
really
the
nice.
pandemic.
Yeah. I'm happy she found, somewhere that she really enjoyed, outside of, working with family, because Lord, I can only imagine how that went. So like, what do you have any like favorite memories, maybe from, your time growing up or once you were a teenager, that you can always look back and be like, "Ah, I remember that. That was such a good day, or that was such a good week or month."
I have like this reoccurring memory. So my mom, one thing that I really appreciate about my mom is that she always chose quality time with me. Like that's how she showed love. And so one of the things that she would do is every like Friday or Saturday night, we would go to Blockbuster when it existed, and she would let me pick out two movies. And then Pizza Hut was right next door. So then we would get a pizza and wings, and then we would go back home and we would like eat pizza and watch the DVDs. And to me, like that's still like a memory that I treasure just because it was so simple, but I loved it. And I'm trying to think, another memory is when I was little for my birthday, my mom she wouldn't like throw a big birthday, but every year I could expect the same thing. And it was cute. Like I had a best friend, her name was Lucy. So my mom knew I loved ice cream. So she would buy me an ice cream cake every year, invite my friend Lucy over. We would like eat, we would say happy birthday and then eat the ice cream cake. And that was my birthday. But to me, it was so much fun. So I think that's another memory. But yeah, I mean, I have some memories with my cousins. Like we went to Sesame Street. Um, that was a lot of fun. Like, so my aunt, she came to the US, I think before my mom did, and she was able to get like a job as a general manager, like with my uncle's restaurant. So she made more money. So I just remember with her, like she would always be the rich aunt, if you will, that would take me under her wing. So she would take me shopping with like my cousins, and she would take me to like Sesame Street, and she took me to Miami, and she took me like, so I just remember that with my cousins too, and that was a lot of fun. So yeah.
It sounds like you really did have that like close-knit family experience. Do you
Yeah.
think that, that support system played a role, how your education, played out? So from elementary school to middle school to high school, do you think that support system had a big role or impact in how you chose to go about education?
It's interesting. So as much as my family and I are close and we all emphasize how important family is, it's also can be toxic. So why I say that is because I remember um, when I was going to Penn State, there were family members that were proud as much as there were family members that seemed a little uh, just maybe weren't as happy. And I think maybe that has to do with them putting their own reflections on their kids. So like, oh, like, if my kid doesn't follow this structure that I want, if my cousins don't follow the same structure that like they need to go to college, I need to do this, it's like bad. Um, so I think unfortunately when I went to college, I did feel kind of like it created a little bit of distance for me with some of my family members because I felt like their reaction or their support was not what I thought it would be. But on the same coin, there are some family members that stepped it up a lot more when I went to college. And so there were some cousins and some aunts and uncles who were there for me, like would like every time they saw me, like, how's college going? Like, so for me, it kind of just highlighted a lot of those relationships with my family, and kind of what support they were giving me. I wouldn't say it really influenced my decision. I think since I was young, my mom always emphasized college, like university. And I knew I wanted to like leave Philly. So I was looking to like Penn State honestly wasn't really an option for me. But then I realized how good of a school it was. So then I decided to go there. But honestly, I wanted to get away from what I knew. Like I wanted to get away from family, and not in the sense that they were like really bad for me or anything like that. It was more so I was looking for something different, something new, like kind of getting out of my comfort zone. So I would say it was like kind of the opposite. So yeah, I'm influencing it.
That definitely makes sense. I can definitely relate to that wanting that something new, something away from what you're used to. I can definitely relate to that. Did you have family members that actually went to college, like, or university or even trade school before you?
All right. Yeah, actually, I have two aunts that went to Drexel and LaSalle. So I did. But unfortunately, I never felt like I could go to them. Maybe it's my own, like I never really asked them for help and support. They didn't offer either, but I never really went to them for anything. Like even when I was applying for FAFSA or I was applying for college, I don't know, it just didn't come to my mind to ask them. Yeah, but yeah, I do have two aunts.
So when it was time, for you to even start thinking about college, why was college even like on your mind? Like, I feel like, anybody could be like, oh yeah, like I could just go to my family restaurant. I got a job there, or I can, go and get a job on my own. Like, what inspired you to want to even pursue it other than, your mom telling you, hey, like you need to go to college or you need to pursue education?
Mm, I think for me, like familial expectations and societal expectations, I would say for me, I felt like it was a chance. It was a chance for me to get away from home because I knew like if I went to college, I don't have that responsibility of like, oh, now I need to get a full-time job, but I'm still a teenager. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I feel like that was definitely not the thought in my mind because I'm like, I'm not ready for like to be a full-blown adult. Like I'm not ready for that. And I feel like I saw college as an opportunity to really I think in high school I just had like, my senior year was not good. So I unfortunately lost a lot of friends that I had that was close to during high school. So for me, I think I was looking for um kind of like that the people, like I was looking for people that I could be friends with, I get to know. I think that was a big thing for me. It was just looking for new people, looking for a new community. And also just new experiences. Like I heard, like the stereotypes of college, like you party and like you have your own dorm room and then you get to like decorate your own room and then you don't have no parent supervision. So like you don't have to ask anyone for permission. So that to me really called my attention because I'm like, oh my God, like this sounds like so much fun. Like, you know what I mean? Like the experience. I definitely did not know what I wanted to study back then. I think I was like public relations, but I feel like I definitely felt like it was gonna help prepare me for the future. But at that moment in time, I wasn't thinking, oh, it's because I want to like be XYZ career or anything like that. Yeah, I think it was more so the social aspect of it. I was very excited about.
Which is valid. I feel like most people that want to go to college in the first place, like they also, they're like, oh, well, freedom.
Yeah,
What about
exactly.
like people around you, like when you were in school? Did they seem like, or did the people around you, was like college kind of like the norm, or what paths did people usually take after high school?
That's so funny because I remember there's one class, I think it was English class my senior year, and I think all of us had to write about what our future plans were, and like everyone's was college or trade school, except for one person that was just like, I'm just gonna start working, and everybody just looked at him like, what? So yeah, that it was definitely college. Like almost everyone was going to college in my school. We had like a counselor who was like helping us. Um, yeah, I mean, everybody, I mean, obviously in the future, like after a couple of years, some people dropped out and like started doing their own thing, but definitely after high school, everybody just had that in their mind. So I'm pretty sure that influenced me a lot.
Yeah. Would you say that your high school prepared you for a college experience?
Hell no. Excuse my language, but no,
That's
definitely
valid.
not. My high school, um, no, I remember like when I went to college, it's just a whole different structure. I mean, I don't even know. Like I have heard of some high schools having like, you can take some college courses or something like that. I don't know if my high school offered that, but I feel like it was just regular high school. Like you have classes from like 8 to 4 or something. Have lunch and kind of what they teach you. has nothing to do with real life. And then in college, you have a little bit more freedom of choosing, like, what you want to learn. So I don't feel like it. Even with the college counselor, I feel like I remember I actually don't even remember what gender they were, but I just remember when I was telling them that I was thinking about applying to Penn State, they were like, I don't know if you'll get in. And yeah, even with the college counselor, I don't even feel like I had like a connection with them. I didn't feel like super supported by them, that's for sure. So no, I don't feel like they prepared
So
me.
how did you come to find out about Penn State? Was it just because you grew up, like, obviously in Philly? I feel like Penn State is
Yeah.
such a big, is that like how you came to find out about it?
I think almost like so many people in my school were talking about it, and actually, people from Penn State came to my school to talk about Penn State, so that also put it in my radar. And I actually was thinking about joining Harrisburg campus, but then Penn State had like this program, and that's not even a thing anymore. But it was this program for like people like of color, like students of color who are first generation, um, that are trying to pursue like higher education. And
What's the
I
name of
was
the program?
accepted through, say that again?
What was the name of the program?
I wish I could remember. I don't remember. I just remember that my freshman or sophomore year, I think it was my sophomore year, like they defunded it. It wasn't like a thing anymore. Yeah, and they had like the support where like you could talk to them, like you could go to someone and talk to them about like your experience, like what support you need and everything. And I just remember like one day I met up with my counselor and she was just like, yeah, actually we're like not gonna continue this anymore. I was like, okay. So I can't remember. It was such a long time ago.
Did you apply to other schools outside of Penn State? Well, I remember you did mention that. Do you remember like what schools you were even looking at or what type of school you were looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to go to a city school. So I was trying to go to like Miami, like Florida, somewhere warmer. I was looking into New York City, but it was too expensive. Like, I think that's the thing. Like, New York City was expensive. Florida was expensive too. And then Penn State, I think what convinced me was I remember it's that USA, it's like that college ranking site, and Penn
Mhm.
State is pretty high up there. And I remember I was obsessed with that site because I'm like, I want to find a college that's good, but that's not too expensive. And Penn State is pretty high up there. And University Park, like I remember I started telling people, and they were like, "Oh my God, like University Park, like that's so good." And I was like, "Oh, okay, like, I didn't know." But yeah, I think I was applying. I was trying to go to a city. I ended up going to like the middle of nowhere, but
Oh my God, I felt that. I felt that so much because I also applied to everywhere and anywhere. And I ended up in the cold, which I hate the cold. And I ended
yeah,
up in the middle of nowhere, which the
it's the
mountains,
middle of
but
nowhere.
middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
when the time came, like let's say, all right, you got your acceptance letter, you accepted your offer, all that good stuff. What did it feel to finally pack up your stuff, get in the car, or however you got over here? Like, how did it feel? Like, how did that, leaving, how did that, play out?
I think it was like surreal. I don't know. I'm trying to think back to that moment of like the drive to Penn State and like with all of my stuff in the back. It just felt like, wow, like this has been a long time coming because I felt like I was preparing like all summer, for like months. Not even all summer, even like while I was in my senior year. Um, it just felt really surreal. I was excited. I was nervous. I just didn't know what to expect. Like I had been there for orientation, I think a couple of months like earlier that summer. Um, and like I met some people and everything. But I was just open. Like I was open to anything that was gonna happen. I was open to like new experiences, new people. So I was just super excited, a little nervous because obviously you don't know what you're like really expecting, who you're expecting your roommate to be. I had talked to my roommate, but in person, I hadn't seen her. Um, I just like talked to her through Facebook. So yeah.
And then did you have like impressions of Penn State before you arrived? Like, were you like, oh, like I expect it to be this way? And like, let's say, you know, did those expectations you had when you first arrived match your experience?
Expectations. Honestly, I don't think that I remember. I don't think I knew what to expect. I think I was just kind of like I knew I was gonna meet new people. I knew it was gonna be different. I did think it was not gonna be like how it has a like main strip of restaurants and everything. I did not expect that. I thought it was gonna be like all green, like just college and then all green. And I'm not used to that. Like obviously I was born and raised in Philly. I'm not used to so much like greenery. So I remember when I got there, I was happy to see that there was like a little downtown. I was really happy about that because it gave me a little bit of the city, like, it scratched that
Yeah.
itch. But at the same time, there is a lot of greenery at Penn State. And I was like, whoa, like it's really nice. It was beautiful, especially when you're going in the summer and it's like, vibrant. And they really take care of like their
Their landscape.
flowers and everything over there. So yeah.
And then what was it like for you when you first arrived? So that first day, you're unpacking. What kinds of things do you remember going through your head, if anything at all?
One thing that I remember, which is really funny, is I was expecting my mom to like cry. So like, because it's like her only daughter, like leaving her nest. And my mom did not even shed a tear. And I was like, oh my
That's what you
God,
think.
like
You probably got in the car and was crying the entire way home.
yeah, my mom did not do that. She was like, okay, like she like helped me put everything in there. Some parents, I'm not gonna lie, I think part of me was like happy, but I think just because my expectations were on my mom, and like I saw my mom had always been hands off when it came to school, but I saw like other parents like helping their kids with like putting everything together and like everything. And my mom didn't do that. She just kind of dropped me off. It's like, okay, like I'm gonna head back now. And I was just like disappointed. So I remember that part of it was like I was a little sad about it. But then like my roommate came, and like we had like a whole day of events like with orientation and everything. And I was just excited after that. I was like excited to see like who was living on the floor and to see what other people were gonna meet. And I was just so proud. I was like so proud of being at Penn State. I was so proud of like being in a good university. Like there were moments in college where I didn't think I would get there. I said in college, in high school, that I didn't think I would get there. So the fact that I was there to me was like, okay, this is a new chapter in my life. Like this is like a blank page. I get to write, I get to kind of have a new beginning, and I get to, and meet new people and like really decide what my experience in college is going to be. So I was just, yeah, I was happy.
And then, do you think that when you first arrived, or even, as you went on in Penn State, that people had like an understanding of like your background, specifically like your nationality, like your not like your heritage and stuff like that?
Uh, I would say in my experience in the beginning, no. And the reason I say that, so I actually was talking about this with a couple of people before, but like in high school, my high school was super diverse, fortunately. So I had friends that were like Middle Eastern, Indian, Black, like Latino, not so much actually, except my best friend. But like a lot of people in my high school were actually first generation, like children of immigrants. So even the white people were like European, like Polish, Russian, like, and it's funny because I didn't come into college, like I wasn't aware of like racism or anything like that. Like that I didn't talk about, I didn't know in high school. Um, and then I remember like in high school, I was just like, we didn't think about race like that. Um, I was like, I had white friends, I had friends from like everywhere. But then when I went to Penn State, I had that same expectation. I had the expectation of like, oh, like, I just wasn't aware of that side of the world. So I didn't come with an expectation that automatically like I need to meet Latinos because I'm only gonna like they're the only ones that are gonna understand me. But then when I saw my floor, it was all, so I was in Atherton, and Atherton was like I don't know if it still is, but it's the dorm for the honors college. So it was all white girls except for me and I think one other Black girl in my floor. And I remember obviously being open to everyone at first. And I was like really excited, but then I just remember them kind of like, there was a difference in how they interacted with me versus how they interacted with my roommate. I can't really even explain it, but it was just kind of I had a feeling like they were a little bit, or like they didn't know how to interact with me maybe, or like I just always saw them getting drawn to my roommate a lot more. And it's funny because the girls that we kind of connected with, it was because of my roommate that we connected with them. But it was funny because they were girly girls and I'm a girly girl too. And then my roommate was a little bit more tomboyish. So if anything, I felt like we would connect, you know what I mean? A little bit more. But no, and like yeah, at that time I just felt like there was a disconnect. And at that time I didn't know what it was. I was just like, why does this keep happening where like we meet people? And then they're always kind of go to my roommate and like I try to be nice and then they don't really like, I could just tell that our interactions are different, and then we just kept meeting like people and it was like more so white girls that we met. And then it wasn't until I took social 119 that I started learning about like racism and like kind of like, the African American, like the Black experience, the Latino experience, like all of this other stuff. And then I think through college, I started realizing, like through my education there, I started realizing, okay, maybe it's because culturally, like they're not exposed to a lot of people that are not white. And so they don't know how to interact with people that are not white. And therefore, they just kind of surround themselves with like similar people. And then I just remember I started seeking Latinos at that point. Like I was actually about to leave Penn State, like main campus. I was trying to go to Abington. I just felt so out of place. I felt like I didn't have any real relationships, like friendships. My freshman year, I felt alone. It's kind of like superficial friendships. Like I would say hi, we would hang out, we would go out, but I didn't feel like a connection with anyone. So I just felt like, well, I came here to make friends and I can't even make friends. Like I can't connect with anyone. I don't feel like anyone can relate to me. I don't feel like anyone really understands me. Like there was this one girl, she wasn't like explicitly mean, but she would like kind of like mock my accent. Like, and I never even knew. Yeah, she would like, oh, like you say it so cute. And then she'll say it how I say it. And I didn't even know I had an accent. Like, and she, like, no one had ever told me, Denise, you talk with an accent, or no one had ever like done anything like that. And then she would like say those things sometimes. And I'm like, I didn't even know I had an accent. And it was just like little things like that was just like, yeah. And so yeah, and then I started seeking out more Latino friends my sophomore year. And I was kind of giving it my sophomore year to see if I was able to feel a little bit better in terms of like community. And then luckily I found Latino Caucus and I went to one of their programs, and then I saw Latinos there. I was just, that wasn't in my head. Like when I went there freshman year, in my head, the only thing there was like, oh, like let me join these organizations. I joined this Dawn organization. I joined like a public relations committee that was just starting off. They were all mostly white people. So in my head, it wasn't even like, oh, I need to find people of color to find a connection. I was just like, I'm open to everything. But then it happened that I would go to these organizations, and again, I would try to be nice, and like I never felt connections with them, and I never understood why in the beginning. I was just like, I don't get why I can't form these friendships. Like I feel like I'm putting myself out there. I'm going to these programs like by myself, trying to meet people, and it just doesn't work out. And it wasn't until like I went to that program, Latino Caucus, some people saw that I was alone, like I was sitting in the back because it was just me. And then some of them actually came to say hi to me, and they were like introducing themselves. And one of them is Laura, and I'm still friends with Laura to this day. So yeah, and then I was just like, oh my God, like, and I remember their program was something funny about like things that Latinos do. And I was like, bro, I can relate to this. And I just felt like I found like a home. Like I felt like I found my people. So I was so excited. And I was like, this was what I was missing. I was missing like just a culture, you know, like of people being able to relate to me. And it took me a while to realize it because I just in my head, that just wasn't what I thought was missing.
So do you feel do you feel like after you found, you know, that that space, that community of, you know, that shared your culture, did you begin to feel supported?
Yeah, I definitely felt like I was just able to talk to, and still like even with Laura, I remember like we went to brunch, like we happened at brunch, and we had like a conversation, and I was just telling her about like my time at Penn State, and she was telling me about her time at Penn State, and we could relate to each other. And I hadn't had a conversation like that in like the year and a half that I had been at Penn State at that point. So yeah, I think just being able to like relate to the experience of like other Latino students, to me, that was a huge support, because it's like, I'm not the only one that feels this way. I'm not the only one that, you know, sees this kind of like this difference between like groups of people. You know, I'm not the only one that's struggling with this, or I'm not the only one who thinks this is funny. You know what I mean? So I think that in itself was just super supportive to know I wasn't like alone.
And then what would you say is something that, you know, kept you grounded to your culture? So despite, you know, in the first year and a half, like not really feeling like you felt, you know, included or welcomed in certain spaces, what would you say kept you kind of connected?
You're talking about during that year and a half, or during like my whole time?
First during the year and a half, and then once you found the Latino community, how would you describe that?
I think in the year and a half, honestly, the way I grounded myself is going home, which isn't healthy. But at Penn State, I just felt like there was nothing to tie me back to what I knew or what I felt. So I would just go home like every other week. And it was just like my comfort. Like my mom would cook me meals. Like I knew Philly. I could go around Philly by my, you know, with my friends, with my cousins. So not the healthiest.
I'm so sorry.
All right. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so a year and a half going home. And then after that, I think just getting involved, honestly, is what kept me grounded. So I started getting involved in like Noche Latina, Latino Caucus. I think like even with a World in Conversation, I like loved like it was people from like all different cultures and backgrounds, and you just get to learn so much about their different like perspectives on so many different things. So I love that. So getting involved in that, becoming an RA. So I just kind of tried to go into spaces that were diverse and more accepting, and just getting involved and finding ways to keep maintaining those spaces was, I think that was my way. Yeah.
So kind of, I guess these are more like top of the line questions, but what did you end up majoring in? And how did you come to that decision?
Yeah, so I actually am an education and public policy major. Um, and it's interesting. So I started off with public relations, but I didn't really like it. And then I knew once I took social 119 and I learned about, the systematic stuff that's going on in this world, and how there's so many different things that affects us from like even when we're born or before we're born. I just really became passionate about how can I make a difference in this world for people like me, and also people that are not like me but suffer because of things that they can't help. So I was just trying to find ways, and I didn't want to do sociology because I've heard that sociology was like too broad and it's not easy to get a job when you have that major. So I was like, okay, like I know I know I want to do something within government. I know I want to do something within nonprofits. Um, and then I was like, I remember there was this one prominent Latino, his name is Raymond Guzman. I think that's his name. Um, so I had actually seen like in the Penn State, I don't know if it was a website or like a magazine or something, but I had seen a little thing that he was featured in. And I saw his major was education and public policy. And I was like, that sounds interesting. So I read up on it, and it was perfect. It was like not wanting to be a teacher, obviously. So it was kind of just focusing on how can we create policy or enhance policy within education in order to help equalize, you know, um, just society, like in a societal way, level everything for everyone. Because education is important at the end of the day, even from when you're like in preschool, like it can change so much. It can change the course of your life. And just knowing, like taking my classes and knowing that there's so many different schools that based on their level of funding can really completely change the future of their students. Like that to me was just crazy. So I was like, this is perfect because I know education is very impactful. And if I can get my hands within education, maybe I can make a difference. So that's how I found out about it. And I really loved like what I was learning there. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
What would you say was your easiest class that you took and your hardest class, either related or unrelated to what you ended up majoring in?
Easiest class I took. Let me try to think. Mm, Oh my God, there was a human rights and literature class. That class was my favorite. And it was easy because it was my favorite. And I still remember it. It was just there was this teacher who basically exposed us to all different types of literature. So it was plays, poems, biographies, like not like nonfiction, fiction, um, even like cartoons. It was just all different ways of how can we as like humans talk about human rights, and how can we translate that into different types of communications, literature, and then how does that resonate with people? What impact does that have? Does it have the impact that the authors wanted to have? Does it have different impacts? Do we learn from history? It was just like it asked so many critical questions, and it was right. It was aligned to what I was interested in. So that was definitely my favorite class. And the professor, he was so good at in the way that he framed everything and the questions that he asked. The hard class was like economics. Yeah, like that was, I didn't get it. Like I got it conceptually in some ways, but when it came to like the nitty gritty of it, yeah, that was hard. I'm pretty sure I like failed and had to take it again.
Econ?
Yeah, econ. That was hard for sure.
And then how would you say that, okay, how was it different, coming from Philly, a big city, to coming to State College? How was that adjustment in terms of locations? How was that?
Oh my God, I actually remember like, and Penn State is quiet, like at nighttime, especially in Atherton. I don't know, it's just a lot more, the noises were different. So city noise is like ambulance, police, I don't know, it's just different, like cars. And I actually remember I used to love like, that was to me was like relaxing. I don't know, like I think because I was just born there, like it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me like hearing that. Like I was used to it. And then when I went to Penn State, I didn't hear it. And I noticed that. And I actually was weird for me to go to sleep when it was quiet. And actually, I still remember like that was something that I noticed. And I was like, oh my God, like I can't sleep because, and not that I couldn't sleep, but it was just like weird. It was weird. So that was definitely like a funny like adjustment that I noticed. I think also I was used to like taking transportation everywhere, but at Penn State you can walk everywhere mostly. Like I know that they have the buses, but I really enjoyed that. Like I really enjoyed walking, being able to walk everywhere. And I think location wise, the only thing that like I really, like I said, I wanted a city, and like it kind of had those vibes, but it was at the end of the day, it was like small. And so that was like another thing that I was just like Philly like has so many more options, But it was a good introduction because I had obviously went from living with my mom to going to Penn State, and it kind of was a good in between me being, going out there and then coming back to Philly and going out as an adult. Because
Right.
when I was younger, I couldn't go out because my mom, like, wouldn't let me. So
Definitely can relate to that too.
yeah.
I can definitely relate to that. So you were talking about like, Penn State doesn't have any options. So, looking back, like what were some of the places that, whether it was in downtown or in, the broader State College area that you just kept going back to, whether it was for food or to go out, like what did that look like? What were the places?
I don't know this place. So I think it was called Pen Kebab. I don't know if it still exists, but I used to go there all the time. And then I used to go to the boba place. There was a Chinese store like right next door to that. I used to go there all the time. The food was just good. It was like my comfort food. I don't know why, but and then where else would I go? My senior year, I found this Korean fried chicken place. It was expensive, but it was really good. I always was a foodie. Like I always loved to eat like different things. So I also like, I definitely miss my Latino food, like for sure. So I remember the last year that I was there, they opened like this Venezuelan place, and I never even had Venezuelan food, but just the fact that it was Venezuelan, I was like hype as hell, like, oh shit, I'm about to go over here. But yeah, that was another place I could think of. But yeah, I think those places. And for nighttime, I would go to the den before, it looks like it was gentrified from some pictures I've seen, but before it was gentrified, I used to go there because all the people of color went there, like
They
Latinos,
still
like
do.
they still do. Okay, because I saw a video and it didn't look like it was the same as
Yeah, I mean,
before.
like, it depends on what day. Like, I feel like
Okay,
now
okay.
it really depends on what day. Like, you can't go to like the den on like a Tuesday because, but
No,
like,
it was the same back
catch
then too.
it Friday, Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was the same too. But yeah, the den would be my go-to because the people, like the music, okay, the music was definitely way better. I mean, compared to Philly, it's not that good, but in State College, it was everything. And then I would go to Indigo too. And yeah, that was it. I know other people went to other bars, but those were my two spots.
Mm.
And I forgot, it used to be called Levels, but I forgot what it's called now. It's like the nice club. I can't remember the name, but that opened up a little bit later when I was in college, and I used to go there too because the people of color, like everyone would go to the den or that place, those two
Mm.
places. Yeah.
I feel like that's how it is now too. Everyone either goes to the den or to the basement. Like, that's the two places.
Oh, the basement. That's what Indigo used to like. It's called now. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. So what extracurricular activities, clubs, groups were you involved in? So you mentioned Thon, you mentioned you were an RA, you found Latino Caucus. So either within the community or outside of the community, once you found kind of like your place, what types of things were you involved in?
Yeah, so I was involved in the thon committee for like that spring semester, and then I'm just trying to go in order, so I remember. And then after that, I was in the Noche Latina committee. So that was my first time being part of like Latino like org or program. And then I remember became a resident assistant. I became secretary of Latino Caucus, but then some stuff went down and I ended up being VP for a bit. And then I'm trying to remember. Oh, I was one of the members of Comunidad Andina y Amigos. It doesn't exist anymore, but I was one of the first members when it first was created, and then I was the president of that. And then I'm trying to think. Rather than conversation, I was a facilitator. That was pretty fun. And then the last thing I did was I became a sister of Lambda Theta Alpha, and I had multiple positions with LTA. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Learn new things. Yeah, I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So.
Oh, nice. Were you
Yeah.
one of like what year did you join? I know they're fairly newer.
I crossed Spring 21. So
Oh,
fresh.
nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. And then what were your favorite places on campus? So not like in downtown area. What about like on campus? What were some of like the places that either you love to go to study or you kind of just like to sit and vibe?
Let me think. On campus, I like to go to GEM, actually. I like to go to Wait Building. What else? I like to go to I don't know how you say it. Alban Pond.
Oh, boom.
Yeah, that one.
No, they closed it. They made it into a Panera, unfortunately. They were still open my freshman year, and then my sophomore year, they made it into a Panera. I was so sad because the food is so good there.
Yeah, and they had this like Cuban sandwich, which I know it's an offense to Cubans, but like their version of it was pretty good. Yeah, I used to go there to study. I'm trying to remember. Oh my God, for finals, I definitely went to the library. I used to go to Atherton in the basement. The basement actually had like these little spots where like, it was kind of a maze. It was kind of cool. But I would go down there too. But yeah, I think there, I can't remember. Pollock, Like the pilot quad would be cool to just chill like outside, like with a blanket or something. And their brunch. Oh my god, yeah. Pollock was the best for food, like for a brunch, like when you're hungover. Best to go there for sure.
Yes. And then were you working at all while you were a student? So either like on campus or in an internship, were you working?
Yeah, so I had like short-term jobs. So I worked like a Sabero, basically a dishwasher. And then I worked at it's this bagel place that I cannot remember the name. Irving's? I don't know if it still exists. Okay. I used to
Yeah.
work there. And I think both places I only worked there 2 to 3 months. And then my last year, I was I worked for for the library. I forgot what it is. They were doing this new initiative where they're trying to help students with research. I was a peer research consultant. I remember peer research consultant. And that was pretty cool. I did that for a year. I think that's it. Yeah, those were my jobs.
What was your experience looking for or like taking on those interns or maybe like an internship or jobs on campus? Like, was it easy? Was it accessible? Or did it feel like you had to climb a mountain to even get employed?
No, it was pretty easy to be honest. I think it was easy to get the jobs you didn't want, like Sabero, Irving's, like the hours, like especially Irving's. Like I think I was working like 6 to 8 or something like that. Was so bad. Um, but yeah, basically I feel like for the jobs that like people don't really want, it was easy. But when it comes to the jobs like in the libraries or like with the mail, jobs where you're kind of doing a little bit more administrative tasks. Obviously there's probably more competition there. So that was harder. And then I know a lot of it was reserved for what's it called? Student job or like the financial aid that gives you a job while you're getting financial aid. I forgot.
Oh, work study.
Eso. Yeah. So I didn't have work study, but I know a lot of those were reserved for work study. So yeah. So it was those were a little harder, but I was able to get it my senior year. So I was happy about that.
That's good. And then what did you do for fun? So when you weren't working, when, you had that free time, you didn't have that much work to do, what kinds of things did you do for fun?
I went out to eat. I love to dance, like I still do. I think that's one of my biggest stress relievers. And it's not even the drinking aspect of it, it's just like dancing. So that's why honestly, like whenever I could, and I also need to find friends that are like that in a sense too. So whenever my friends that I like to dance to were available, I would just go out and dance with them. What else did I do? I went to well, I said this before. Especially my junior and senior year, I really enjoyed like working out. So that was something that I did. Um, yeah, I think that's it. Really, not too interesting. Yeah.
And do you have any, so I asked you about your memories, from your childhood growing up. Do you have memories that you think back on about Penn State?
Yes, like good and bad, or yeah, good and bad. I think my good memories are more so the ones that I can remember are the most recent ones. I think when I became an LTA, just being with my line sisters, especially because I don't see them now, I cherish those moments a lot. Um, yeah, like we were just together all the time. We were fucking sorry, we're struggling so much. We were struggling so much, but it was like because we were struggling so much, it really made our bond a lot stronger. So I feel like that was a memory. Those are memories I cherish a lot. Just every time we were together. Um, And honestly, I think just walking around campus, like when I think back, like now I don't have that. I don't have that. Like I'm working from home. I like am in the city, but I still have to like drive because I'm not that close to the city. So I don't get to enjoy like the green air of Penn State. I think Penn State really exposed me to like enjoy the grass, enjoy the trees, like enjoy nature. And I really miss just being able to like walk and see people that are my age everywhere. So I think those are definitely things that I miss. And bad memories, just struggling for class, really, just like procrastinating and then in class, like regretting it. And like, especially for finals, just like not sleeping. Like my health was terrible during college, didn't sleep enough. I didn't eat that great. So I think just those things are like, ugh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Yeah.
I can relate to that. I'm in the finals motions right now, so I can definitely relate. Um, and then I guess this is a very top of the line question, and you can answer it however you want, but do you feel pride in being a Penn Stater?
Yeah, I do. I really appreciate the experience that I went through at Penn State, like good or bad. I feel like it gave me a very unique experience that if you don't go to college, not even Penn State, but I think if you don't like go to university, you won't have at the end of the day. And it doesn't mean that you're more valuable or less valuable if you go to college, but I just think it's so unique because you are surrounded by people that are, like I said, are your same age. You're all kind of in the same struggle bus because you're all taking classes. At the end of the day, you're trying to graduate, you're trying to kind of see what your life is. And then there's also so many things you're exposed to. So I think one thing that Penn State is really good at is like they make it easy for you to start your own organization. So it could be like such a little neat like niche, like whatever organization you wanna start, like you can. And then that creates kind of communities for all types of different people that are interested in all types of different things. Um, so I feel like that's something that makes me proud to be a Penn Stater. Um, yeah, I would say yeah.
And what could Penn State do to help Latino students? Like, what could it do to make Penn State and the university life better for Latino students? Either back then, looking back at your time that you spent here, but even if you've even noticed things going on now.
That's a really good question. I think for me, it's ensuring diversity across every aspect of university life. I'm talking dorms, I'm talking like intake, like the people that you're accepting in, like even with staff, like across all aspects of it. And not only racially diverse, but also just like diversity and like their backgrounds, right? And not just trying to meet a quota of like 6%. I don't know. Yeah, just I think that would help out a lot. Like I feel like if where I was staying at in Atherton was a lot more like racially and like culturally diverse, my experience probably wouldn't have started off so bad in the beginning because I would have been probably more likely to meet people that I could relate to. Um, what else? I think I know they offer counseling, but I think maybe offering different types of counseling in maybe different ways. So maybe not calling it therapy, but calling it something that's a little bit more approachable and having people that are readily available to kind of just listen to you and listen to your struggles and direct you to resources that they might not know about. I think that would be awesome too. Um, and what else? I think That's all I can think about right now at the moment. And Latino studies, I know they're doing that now, but I remember when I first heard about it my senior year, like I was about to graduate and I heard that that was like a thing that was gonna happen. I was so excited about it and I was kind of jealous because I actually tried to take a Latino studies class my last semester and it was all full, of course, because like people were interested in it. But I think keep that alive, keep that going, like fund it. It's really important for people to learn about their own backgrounds. Like I wish I could have learned more about like Latino history. Like I feel like I know so much about Black history and I'm happy that I do because it's very important. But I also feel like there's not enough information about like other communities' history. You know what I mean? I feel like that's also important. So I think it's important to be a pioneer in that sense. So I hope that they keep it going.
I hope so too, because I genuinely have learned so much taking my Latino studies courses. And I think that without being exposed to that, I think a lot of my interests would also be different. Like, I think that my path, like the path that I would want to take, would also be different. So now, just kind of to wrap things up, would you say that you had a person that has really changed the course of your life by something that he or she did or said to you? Just kind of looking back at maybe your mentors or people that really made big impacts in your life. Like, do you have someone like that? And if so, like, what did they do? And what do you remember them saying or doing?
Okay, this is not career wise. It's more personal wise, but it did impact me a lot. So when I was getting to know Sisters of LTA when I was just an interest, I talked to one of the OGs from our chapter. Her name is Belle. Um, and I remember like in college, I was very insecure about myself. I wasn't confident. I wouldn't dare step out if I didn't have makeup. I didn't dare step out if like I had pimples. If my outfit like wasn't cute. I didn't even want sweatpants. That's how bad it was. Like I just had jeans, like cute things. I was just so like, I think because of my family. But basically, I remember talking to her and we were talking about like, you know, insecurities when it comes to how you look and everything. And I remember her telling me basically that we have to be comfortable in our own skin. And if we're not comfortable in our own skin, then nobody's gonna accept us. Like if we can't accept ourselves, nobody else is gonna accept us. And also like kind of like what's so bad about a pimple or what's so bad about like, you know, like looking comfortable or being comfortable. And I just remember having that conversation with her and she was just telling me like her experience because she also went through the same thing. And she just made me look at it as such a different way that it completely impacted the way I started looking at myself. Like I started taking baby steps to like just like, you know, like not caring about what other people think. That was like the end line of our conversation. Like you're the one who has to be happy with yourself. You don't have to like always like be looking around to see who thinks you're cute or who thinks you're ugly, blah, blah, blah. Like it doesn't matter. Um, so that to this day, I feel like has impacted me because from the person I was in college to the person I am now, two completely different people. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your experiences. I genuinely learned a lot from you. You know, I'm happy that I got the chance to connect with you. This really meant a lot to me, and I hope that kind of talking about this also just got you a little bit fired up.
Thank you so much, Heidi. I really appreciate everything that you're doing, and I'm very excited to see everything that's going to be published. And yeah, thank you for what you're doing. It's amazing.